Hello. I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to I Don't Know. We Can Talk About It, where we discuss myriads of topics civilly, reasonably, and responsibly. My name is Kevin Dufresne. Our first topic is with regard to shutting down schools as a measure of saving cost. How one might perceive cost is extremely important to navigate with such a conversation. What may be happening with an educational environment that brings any entity to consider shutting the educational environment down as a cost-effective measure, especially considering the potentials of a successful, thriving educational environment. The article indicates the environmental context of which may situate a shutting down of an educational environment in a light that may be a balance of no cost, though in relation to where costs are currently, with no gain, and an evening out, though a variance depending on the environmental context. So the benefits of education are apparent, evidentially through studies indicating that education contributes to value. Now, one may argue of what kind of education, when is such an education most valuable, where, in certain instances, how and why. So, when considering how an educational environment entering into a community may be of a contribution to increasing value, one must assess many factors, of which regard educational planning. The two articles in this episode will regard education in connection with funding, though between federal and state levels, and connect very well to comprehend a very core dynamic important to education. The core dynamic in these articles seems to be most apparent more so with results by wording of the articles. Though, with regard to what is important to addressing educational outcomes, educational progress, one must fully acknowledge the whole person, the clientele, the audience. With regard to how education may function, how education may develop, one may argue of the question deliberatively, what is a school? With educational criteria available, one may understand what a school may function to do and align with legal dimensions, though when regarding how to implement an educational environment in a community, the questions are beyond the factory manufacturing dimensions of the mindset of an educational environment as a workplace, though an educational environment as a space and avenue where individuals are able to grow, gain valuable skills, gain valuable social experiences, so as to be efficient, functional individuals in the world outside of education, outside of academia. Especially considering the variety of schools, one may find if education begins with creating the factory without regard to the personnel of the factory, without regard to, even more so, the clientele that will benefit from the product of the factory, then an educational factory may find problems of enterprise. When considering establishing an educational environment, one must consider populations. What is the census? The actual amount of potential that may be able to invest energy into that avenue of which an entity is establishing. What allows an educational environment to set a cap on student seating is one way to address whether an environment may be able to situate an educational environment to receive adequate support, aside from what may be of individuals that might not even go to an educational environment for any purpose. One may recognize an educational environment that has individuals paying, investing financially for the schooling, operates to a different financial capacity than an educational environment that may rely on government assistance. So, when considering establishing an educational environment, one may recognize that with considerations of federal laws or state laws, how management may happen differently from state to state, planning is extremely important. This is not to say that planning is happening without considering dimensions of populations. This is a measure of how educational environments are assessing growth, especially if not receiving payment directly from students long term, and how educational environments are receiving accreditation amidst the entire process of acknowledging constituents of educational environments so as to regard potential contrasting actuality, especially after a year or so, how these educational environments are receiving accreditation, though the accreditation may be wonderfully validating of wonderful dimensions of an educational environment. Is the accrediting process inclusive of the population aspect, considering how many potential avenues being present affect the long-term dimensions of an educational environment? So there may be many educational avenues that are going to be able to support individuals differently. There may be educational avenues that accept certain types of payment that others do not. There may be educational avenues that are more affordable or offer opportunities that others do not. So individuals are able to invest differently of those routes. There are educational opportunities that may be ready to accept individuals without a cutoff date. So the availability is wonderful to have for individuals that may be transitioning from one location to another location. There may be certain educational environments that stand out for niche particular reasons, whereas there may be educational environments that are wonderful to have, though in the span of the geographical comprehensions may not be in a situation to receive enough support, receive enough investment to be long lasting in that particular geographical landscape. So one may recognize when addressing closures, cost savings, when addressing how federal and state laws, legal progressions may be happening, may be in deliberation, one may look with regard to planning educational atmospheres, especially considering if individuals are looking for investments to support educational progressions more so than investing fully to establish all the dimensions for ensuring successful educational atmospheres may be. Populations are extremely important to assess with regard to planning establishments of communities. Beyond assessing only the factory, if one will, the personnel of the factory, one must engage with planning with regard to the geographical landscape, which is inclusive of dimensions of populations. All right, it's time for some origami. First, I have here a squarish sheet of origami paper. I'm just gonna fold it edge to edge. Then I'm gonna fold the bottom part up halfway. Next, fold this portion halfway. The bottom halfway. Fold it back up. Then fold it the half way again. So I'm just gonna fold this half in, then I'm just gonna fold the other half in. It's like I'm rolling up a fruit roll up. And afterward, I'm going to take that fold, I'm just gonna follow it up here. So after I make this bottom fold, actually I'm just gonna fold the rest up halfway to the halfway point. So you can save yourself that extra fold from prior. But it's a good practice in folding. So the next step with this is to fold in each portion halfway to the center line, then fold it again to the center line. Okay. So after that is complete, what we're going to do is now fold them in, open it up, and fold in the corners halfway in, and fold the corner, the other one, halfway in as well. And from here, we're gonna open it back up, fold it in the middle, fold it in the middle. You have your halfway point here from this top part. Fold it in, fold it in. And actually you wanna have the bottom part to actually pop out. So this is actually a short fold. So what I'm actually gonna do is look at the instructions real quick. If you look in the summary, you can find the instructions yourself, and it can really, really help with navigating this design. So the one part that we really need to adjust is here with this folding in of the corners after we make that bottom fold. Okay? So after we get that fold in, that bottom fold, then we're going to fold in toward the middle. So now this fold toward the middle doesn't look like it goes all the way. It looks more like a half fold. So you can fold toward the middle, then fold in half that recent fold, so it's like this. And what happens here is you're gonna, you can fold beyond it. You're gonna fold in the top part. So we're folding in the top part, folding down this envelope portion, and there you have it. Then you have your envelope. And you can find what is most suitable for your folds as you go along to make sure that you have appropriately fitting folds. Now, this is just an envelope. There's another part to this envelope here where we fold in half, edge to edge, and we're going to be moving left to right more so than up and down. So here we are here. I'm just going to look again at the instructions really, really quick. So we're going to fold, actually, more so from the top than down, but we're going to fold down the top part more so than left and right. And from here, we'll just turn it over and we'll fold in the corners so that we can have the points come in as such. And from here, we are going to fold backwards. So we're going to fold up. So we're going to fold in this tip down here. Then press in that middle line. Afterward, you're going to have to press in. You look in on the other side, you'll press in the other side, so then you can have the heart formation. Pretty fluid fold. Then you'll just press in each corner as such that you can get your heart formations down, and you'll fold in the middle, this back edge here. So you'll fold it toward the middle, this back edge, and from here you'll be able to situate, if you look at it, the heart envelope inside. So this is where we come to that point where we can check in with the size of our entrance here. To adjust it depending on how big your entrance area is. So this can be another way to align it. You just set the heart in, and with this fold, we'll come in here and you can see where you can set it appropriately. So I set it down here, so I'll try a half fold just to check it. So see it here, try a half fold here, okay. And if I bring it down, it looks like more of a rectangle envelope when I set it in. And it's like a small rectangle envelope. So the other part is you can see which kind of origami paper might be suitable with your fold and check different sizes, but then you'll have the fitting as such. So there are so many ways to address folding origami, and here is the envelope itself. A way to share a message, perhaps even writing on the inside of the front, the heart portion, and slipping it in a nice way. So that's to consider as a birthday card. I champion reading physical books. When an individual reads a physical book, there are a lot of health benefits, one of which is the brain physically changes as one is reading a physical book. Come Together, Dr. Nagoski brings about emotional intelligences, using neuroscience, really engaging with biological dimensions and engaging with these stages of desire and really arousal. And it's really a stepping stone from her text of Come As You Are, which I think really speaks to Come Together. The relevance of the garden metaphor is strong and thriving. Individuals are bringing of the self to different qualities, and relationships may form in different capacities in different ways, with acknowledging differences and mutually connecting, finding balance, finding mutual respect. I think the text offers a lot to consider with regard to these dimensions of coming together, to be more in tune with social dynamics and emotional dynamics, though I think there are important boundaries that are important to acknowledge as well with one's personal well-being and how one is to navigate relationships when one might be going through a situation that requires personal growth versus one bringing what may be affecting one adversely into a relationship and expecting the relationship to solve the situation. So there are ways to be supportive, though the responsibilities of self-growth are apparent, are always available for individuals willing to grow. And when the awareness is there and the individual is aware of what needs to happen, I think it's important for individuals to make responsible decisions so as to mature to self-culture in ways that will contribute to thriving futures, not just independently, though interdependently in a relationship, and how these dynamics of growth may affect relationships beyond the romantic relationship may prove quite wonderful. The dynamics of aging are important to address because one may enjoy life wonderfully well, especially considering if one is eating well, attending nutrition well, exercising well. The evidence is showing that age is not a determinant of anything as inevitable. So one has much control of one's life depending on one's choice behaviors. And of course, one must think of one's life how one is going to think of one's life, though one may greatly benefit thinking of life long term in the most healthful ways. With that, thank you for joining. I don't know, we can talk about it. Onward and Upward, Kevin Dufresne.